Hey guys, welcome to the Canadian Spartan Ambassador Podcast. We are your hosts. I'm Amber.
And I'm Jill, and we are ready to take you through some Canadian Spartan content. We are so excited to bring this podcast to you where we will discuss lots of topics Spartan Race Canada.
Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to stay connected for all our exciting episodes to come. Today, we are online with some of our Canadian Ambassador Leads to talk about how we kickstarted the season at Brimacombe and bring you all the race recaps and exciting highlights. If you're not sure about the Ambassador program, we are just a group of people who work closely with Spartan Canada to help them grow their community.
So let's welcome Mike, Julie, and Alex, along with myself and Amber, and let's welcome in the 2023 Spartan Race Canada season. Hi, everybody. I am here with the Ambassador Leads for Spartan Race Canada. And today we are talking about the 2023 race season. It's already underway. A lot of us have done the first race in Ontario, Canada, and we've also done some other races. So we're going to talk about that today. But first, let's introduce ourselves as the Canadian Ambassador Program Lead Ambassadors. So I'm going to start with Alex. Tell us about yourself and how long you've been racing, and little intro.
Yeah, hi. So I'm Alex Contreras. I've been racing since 2015, done 55 races since. Been an ambassador since 2019. I live in Gatineau, Quebec. So I do most of the East Coast races in the US and in Canada, and sometimes fly over on the West Coast as well, and in other countries too, to do some races. So yeah, super excited to be here, Jill.
Amazing. What was your first race this year already in 2023?
Yeah, this year we started with Montana almost 4 weeks ago. Pretty brutal. Mike was there, Julie was there. Yeah, it started the season pretty strong with a trifecta weekend with a beast with like Tremblant Blanc type of conditions for those who did it last year. Lots of people had a hypothermia, me included, and some didn't finish, some were taken out. So yeah, pretty brutal start of the season, but yeah.
Amazing. All right. And we also have Julie here. Julie, tell us about yourself.
Yes. Hi. I'm Julie Duperron. I'm also based in Gatineau. I've started Spartan races in 2021. I've done like 35 Spartans so far. I do mostly the Spartans in Canada and also in the US. And with Alex, we went to Spain last. My first Spartan was in Montana, but we also did Toronto and California this month. So yes.
So you guys have a great perspective in terms of seeing so many different races, different conditions, and you've got a great ability to be able to give us some feedback on everything that we're doing. That's awesome. What about Mike? We also have Mike here as well, and Mike's out on the West Coast. And Mike, let us know. Tell us about yourself.
Hey, I've started Spartan Racing back in 2016. Actually, my first obstacle course races were Tough Mudder, and then moved over to Spartan. I've done over 40 Spartan races so far. I started my race season this year with Montana, and looking forward to going to Red Deer in about 6-7 weeks. Raced in both Canada, the US, and last year I went down and raced in Mexico, which was an amazing experience and an amazing venue, and looking to go back there again.
Amazing. And before we start talking about the season that we've just started, let's talk about the community a little bit of Spartan in terms of how it differs from Canadian community to Mexican community to Spain. Oh my goodness, we have a wealth of Spartan knowledge here. Anybody want to go?
I can say, because I've done 2 races in Spain, and they have their community over there is mostly European or Central European or whatever. So it's not just like French ambassadors and or racers and English racers or Spanish, like because it's so easy to travel in Europe, so they do all of them. When we went to we were actually in the Canary Islands for this one, so it was not like on the mainland in Spain. It was in the Canary Islands, and there were a bunch of like English people, British people, people from Netherlands. So in Europe, they have a strong sense of racing community, and no matter the country. So I found it super interesting.
Yeah, that's really cool that it's like that. And do you notice that there are a lot of Canadians when you were at the races? Julie, do you have a perspective on that one?
No, I haven't seen any much Canadians in in Tenerife, but in the US, definitely.
Lots of Canadians.
In the US, there's people from all over the world.
Yeah, I find that the US has created such an amazing community. And I mean, that's what we're trying to do here with Spartan Canada, with the ambassador program, is start that community and have, you know, the same kind of people traveling, because it's great to see the same faces. Like I bet you see Canadian faces that you know on our Toronto course that you saw in Montana, right?
So
Yes.
that's really funny, because I was telling Julie that I think while we were doing the race in Big Bear, and I was like, it's only in Spartan that you can be like in California one week, and then you're in Toronto the next week, and then in Vermont like a couple of weeks after, and you see the same people and say hi, like, because it gets you like to travel and be in the same places at the same time as other people, and you build like relationships and friendships. So I think that this sense of community is really strong, because over time you see the same racers over and over again, and you become friends, and then you have a place to stay in some places. So yeah, the sense of community really strong here in Canada and in the US for sure.
Yeah, and I think that's what drives people to travel to Abu Dhabi or Greece or all of the different events and chase these crazy trifectas. There is somebody in Canada going for 24? Is it 24 he's going for? Is it Graham?
Yeah, isn't it 18 or I think
18?
it's yeah, something
So
like that.
for anybody that doesn't know what a trifecta is, does anybody want to fill in about the trifecta medals? And you guys have probably seen those more than I have, because I have not done any outside of Canada yet. So, but yeah, tell us about the medals that you receive for trifectas when you do more than one or in the same race.
So I personally do a lot of my races around that trifecta weekend, and I'll fully admit, you know, it is all about the bling at the end. So when you go and do your trifecta weekend, you are doing your sprint, your super, and your beast all in one weekend. Now, something that was unusual when I went down to Mexico is they actually do their sprint right after the beast on the same day, and then they have their super the next day. So that was a bit challenging and through the path off. But when you're doing them all in the one weekend, you get your medal and your wedges for your sprint, your super, and your beast. And then you get a venue specific or weekend specific trifecta medal. So you walk away from that immediately right off the top with 4 medals. And then depending upon how many you've completed for the season at that point, you could walk away with 2 times, 3 times. I've seen one lady walking around with one that looked like it was about the size of a dinner plate. And I think she was at about 13 trifectas at that race or something like that. But they just grow in size. It's awesome to work towards.
And what does anybody know what the highest amount of trifectas in a year anybody has earned? I believe it's in the 30s. I don't know the exact number. Does anybody know?
40s.
Gosh.
Yara beat. I forgot her last name, but she goes by Yara. She's in the US, and she beat the world record last year with 48. Don't quote me or something, but we've seen her already, like she was in Big Bear, and she's trying to beat her own record. So I guess the maximum that you can do is 52, I would assume. Like technically, if there's 52 weeks in a year, like I don't see how you can do more than 52. So doing 48 is pretty close. So
That's
for
pretty
her.
much every weekend. And I do follow her on Instagram. If you don't follow her, she's really interesting. She showcases every race and she's always so happy and fun. She actually was at I met her at Blue Mountain in 2021. She races in my age category, and I actually followed her for most of the race. I was just behind her. And then after, people were like, oh yeah, that's Yara. She races everywhere. I didn't really know at the time, but now it's like, oh, that's really cool. But you would see Yara at places like
And
that.
funny enough, Julie and I saw her the first time, correct me if I'm wrong, Julie, it was at Red Deer last year when we were at the info tent, and we were volunteering at the info tent, and she came and she told us, oh, I'm trying to beat the world record. And I was like, who is this girl doing a sprint and a super at Red Deer? And then next thing you know, like, yeah, she does beat the world record and she goes on everywhere. So yeah, good for her.
Yeah, it's fantastic. So a lot of us are chasing the medals. We're trying to get these extra medals that you get for doing multiple trifecta weekends, because it's all about earning that little piece of bling at the end of the day. I think that's about what sums it up for people who like to go traveling to do it all. But it's the community as well. Like, you wouldn't do this if it was just push-ups and burpees, running around doing that all weekend after weekend, right?
Another anecdote on the community part of things. I remember in one of my first few races, like initially when I started, I was doing only the sprint, so the Ottawa sprint. Like I did that for like 3 years, I think, and then I got really like the motivation and the energy and just like the interest to do like more and know more about like what is the trifecta and multiple trifectas. So it went just like uphill from there. But I think on my second race or third race, while I was going up a hill super slow, someone passed by me and they were talking to someone else who they just like met on course. And I remember they said something along the lines of like, the best thing about OCR is the sense of community. And at first I was like, what is he talking about? Like I was expecting maybe the medal or like, I don't know, like the challenge, but he said the community. And I didn't know what he meant at that time. And then as I'm doing more and more, I got to understand like, yeah, for sure, the sense of community and meeting people and becoming friends with other, really the sense of community is something that gets us going back, and then you follow other people on Instagram and then you get to see them in person. Like it's happening oftentimes, like someone will come up to me, and even in Toronto, I was waiting at a food truck and some person comes like, hey, you're Alex, I follow you on Instagram. And I was like, oh yeah, I forgot his name, but like, and then you just build those relationships and you see them year over year and venue after venue. So yeah, super cool to build that sense of community and friendship.
Yeah, and I find personally, I get really excited for people's achievements too that I follow on Instagram. Like I really don't know these people. I see them at races. I follow them on Instagram, and then they're saying they came second in age group and they were going for this time. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's the best thing. It's like, it's almost like it's our sport. Of course it is our sport, but it's fun to follow like regular, normal people who have jobs. And, I find that's very interesting as well too. And even it's not just the elite racers that are personally to me, it's everyone. It's the person going for 18 open trifecta weekends. Like that's insane to me. Or it's even Noah, one of our lead ambassadors, he is in the elite category. So he did, I believe it was his first race in elite, I could be wrong, this weekend. And I was just like, wow, that's amazing. You raced with all these people. Your time was fantastic. Like, you're cheering. I don't think this happens in other races. Like and actually maybe Julie, you could talk on that because you just did a marathon. We won't say which one, but you just finished a marathon. It's probably not the same community.
No, but actually someone recognized me on the start line. And they said, oh, hey, Julie. And it's a Spartan racer. I didn't follow her on Instagram, but now I follow her. But she's tried an ultra. And I think it's really cool that they can see like open racers, and it motivates them that it can be the average person that does a lot and motivates themselves and try all different kind of challenges. But yeah, I think that was pretty cool.
That's amazing. And that's just for being around the Spartan community, you know,
Yeah.
and going to races and being there. I think that's fantastic. What a cool experience to have. But I've had the same as Alex too, being somewhere actually. Really funny story. In my climbing gym, I have a friend now from the climbing gym, and I had a Spartan Race on my bottle or something, a sticker, I think. And we became friends because he had done a Blue Mountain one, and he really didn't like Blue Mountain. That was the year that it was really cold. He did the ultra. He's an ultra person. He really likes to do long distances. He did not love it and pretty much said he wouldn't come back. And we had his daughter at Toronto who had a fantastic time in the kids race. She loved it so much that he's now signing up for a trifecta again. So just because the gym connection with the Spartan sticker.
I can tell you the ultimate story that relates to that, and then we can move on. But Red Deer last year, 2021, Julie and I were on the plane. We're flying to Calgary, Ottawa to Calgary, and I had a Spartan shirt on. And as we're close to landing, or as we're landing to Calgary, it was super late at night, and I had rented a car, but I forgot that they closed like early or whatever. Long story short, we missed our car because when we landed, I had booked the car for earlier. Anyways, my car was gone. We had no car. I called everywhere, and there were no cars available. So as we were the plane was like taxiing to the terminal, we noticed that the guys behind us were also wearing Spartan shirts. So out of desperation, and Calgary is not necessarily super close to Red Deer, so it's actually like an hour and a half away, or an hour. So anyways, Julie's like, ask them. And I was like, okay. So I turn around and I'm like, hey guys, are you going to the Spartan race by any chance? And they're like, yeah. And you're Alex, right? I was like, yes. Like, I follow you on Instagram. I was like, oh my God. And then I tell them the story of my car, and they're like, oh, no worries, we can give you a ride. And coincident, they were staying at the same hotel that we were. So anyways, all that to say is that for just like because of a logo, I was able to like make a connection, and they were able to give us a ride when we didn't have a car. Like, we were about to Uber from Calgary to Red Deer and like lose all of our money, but we ended up staying or not staying because we had our room, but we had a ride. And again, community, super important, and just the Spartan logo can make a difference.
Yeah, and it's funny because I don't know about you, but because my job is either I'm working with kids at summer camps, or I am personal training, but it's always like a physical job. I wear a lot of Spartan attire due to the fact that I go to a lot of races and I get a lot of Spartan shirts, and so it's very common that I would have a Spartan logo on, or a sticker or something. So yeah, I think that's a great thing about Spartan. I want to keep growing that personally. I know you guys do. That's why we're all doing the ambassador program, so that everyone can have more stories like that. And you know what would be great is to get a collection of random stories like that and do a podcast night where we just hear people's random, like, Spartan saved my life stories, but like yours, like more like the car, or that kind of thing. That would be a fun podcast, I think. So let's move on. Let's talk a little bit about the Toronto weekend. We just had the Toronto race weekend. I personally loved the weekend. I'm so excited for the season now. I feel like Brimacombe, and this is only I started in 2019. I didn't really give a bio here, but I started in 2019 when it was in Duntroon, which is near me. A friend had signed up for the 5K. At that point, they had the 5K race it was a 3-day. They had a 5K on maybe Saturday, and then the 21 was next, and then, or maybe the 21 was last. Doesn't matter. It was the 5K first. I just signed up for one race and was like, this is the best thing I've ever done in my entire life. Let's see if I can sign up for the other ones, because like 3 people said there's an extra medal if you do that, and I like medals. So I was able to sign up and do all 3. So that was my introduction to Spartan right there.
I did the beast in Duntroon, and I didn't know about the trifecta weekend thing then, and I only knew about it like too late, and it was a flat course. If you remember, it was like as flat as you can get. So it was an easy trifecta weekend for those who were doing. So had I known, I would totally have done the trifecta weekend, but I only found out about it after like the last day. So
yeah, so and that was my experience was, oh, this isn't so hard. I'll do Blue Mountain next year. Yeah, totally different scenario. But now that I've done those, I'm okay. With I would like to do some of the big mountain courses as well. I know I can handle it now. But I'm glad I
Jill,
got that mini introduction.
You missed out on actually no, it was still in 2019. It was there, but maybe you didn't do it. Alzed. So for those watching, like if you know, Alzed, like some people's soul are still there. Crazy mountain, like definitely like the top races I've done, like crazy mountain.
Okay, I don't know Owl's Head, but is that near Quebec or?
Yeah, it was the Montreal venue in Alzey, but still like an hour and a half away from Montreal, very close to the US border, so not towards Tremblant, but really south, in a bit of in the middle of nowhere. But yeah, it's become famous for like the Beast, 2018, 2019. Those were, I think 2019. Yeah, it was a killer
Epic
there.
weekends.
Yeah.
So that's what I like about Brimacombe. Oh, sorry, Julie, go ahead.
No, I didn't do it personally, but I've been hearing it like in the US from people who actually went to Canada to do a race, and they talk about this famous race, and I'm like, why did I not do this?
Yeah, I was signed up to do it at the Montreal race after 2019. Then obviously I signed up for everything and got a season pass after my trifecta weekend, but then the world went into lockdown. So I could have gone, but there was lockdown happening. But Brimacombe, I really enjoy Brimacombe personally because I think that's a great place to start our season. It's a great introduction for everybody. It's got elevation, but it's not over the top elevation. So it's a great place for us to start. It's a good way to kind of shake off the rust from the season because unlike the US where they race all year long, if you're just racing in Canada, we don't start till May. It's close to Toronto, so the weather's probably going to be pretty good. And so I think Brimacombe is this is the second year for me, and I'm always so happy after the weekend. So I know both of you went. Tell me about some of the things that you saw there. Who wants to go first? Don't all speak at once, though. Let's go with Julie.
Brimacombe. It was really nice. I don't know where to start. I did the hurricane as well, so but it was very hot compared to Montana, because Montana, when it was cold, like raining, it was a very nice weekend in terms of the weather. Just the one thing we noticed, like it was the same course layout as the previous years, which like was a bit disappointing, but it's still a great venue. It was nice to like do it, and I've been enjoying it for the years that I did it. But yeah, I think it went pretty well for myself. The hurricane heat, it was great. I think it was adapted to like all level, like fitness levels. The only like challenging part for myself was like the 150 burpees at the beginning, but besides that, it was more focused on like mind games and stuff like that, like poker. And besides that, like I'll let the other people speak, but I think it went really well. The Brimacombe, there was a lot of people, a lot of new racers. So yeah.
And for anybody who doesn't know about the hurricane heat, and I can't really say too much about it because I have never done one. I actually was signed up to do one pre-pandemic, but I haven't gone back there yet. It's a 4-hour event. You show up, there is a gear list that you have to get ready. And when you get there, you just do basically whatever you're told. and it lasts for 4 hours. I know the 4 hours, they were explaining that it's more of an introduction to the endurance section. There's also a 12-hour and a 24-hour that Spartan has. So we just had our first hurricane heat, and that was on the Saturday. So a few of the ambassadors went there, and it was the second biggest one for Spartan ever, is what we were told. So there were 80 people signed up and 60 people showed up. So I think with such a big group size, it sounds like, trying to figure out what to do. And so it went more on the brain aspect of it. And, 150 burpees, that's pretty hard, and for some people, it's a lot harder than others, right?
For me, it's easier to run like 25K than to do 150 burpees.
Oh my gosh, me too. Any day I'll carry a rock up the hill, up and down, over having to do that many burpees. Although I just did the Murph today. And when you look at the Murph, which is just quick, it's a mile run, 100 pull-ups, 200 push-ups, 300 squats, then a mile. When you look at it, it doesn't sound that bad. And I've done it before, but then you start getting into it and you're like, why did I do this? But Alex, how was your experience for the weekend? What did you, any highlights?
Yeah, it was great. Like Julie said, I'm not going to repeat, but we came the week before from terrible weather in Montana, so this was like perfect weather. I got from like hypothermia to sunburn like the next week. It was just like night and day. This was, I think, the third or fourth time that I was doing the race in that venue. And like Julie said, it was very, very similar to last year's course. I wish, or I hope that in the future, things change a bit. I know the mountain is pretty small, so I guess Nick is limited in what he can do, but maybe I remember Ottawa a couple of years ago. The course was the same, but they did it in reverse. So like the start line was at the finish line and the course was in reverse. So it was kind of almost the same course, but it felt different because it was in reverse. So maybe something
changed it up
that Nick could do next year. But just a nice venue. It was so nice to see so many people. Organization went well. The course was well marked. I mean, nothing to complain. The surprise crazy barbed wire at the end, that was not there last year, so this was something really cool.
Okay, talk about that, the barbed wire, because if you weren't there, oh my goodness.
Yeah, it was like 200 or 300
meters
200 meters incline barbed wire, not in like soft grass. No, it was like hard rocks, not all even. And the surprise that we got was there was the snow cannon, whatever. They were shooting water, so it was cold and it was slippery. It was low also. Julie and I did Jacksonville last year, and that was, I think it's a signature move from Jacksonville. It's an incline or a barbed wire with also water, but it wasn't as bad. I don't know, Julie, but my memories from Jacksonville, we had a hard time, but this one, I still have bruises on my knees, I think, from that course.
I found that one. So normally, because I'm not really tall, I think most females, I'm pretty average size anyways, but most females, I think normally we have a bit of an advantage for the barbed wire crawl, because I find I just duck it under just a little bit. I just have to kind of dip my back and then come up. I don't really have to get down on the ground. But for this barbed wire crawl, which I can't say very well, I found it so, I was on my arms the whole time. I'm like, why is it like this? I tried to do my normal move, my technique, and I have scratches on my back to prove how awesome and smart that was.
You definitely could not roll because it was uphill.
Amber is here as well. We'll get to her in a second. Amber's also one of our ambassador leads, and we'll be talking to her. She also did the hurricane heats, and I think she loved the barbed wire crawl as well. But I know Nick had said to us ahead of time, to Amber and I, that that was going to be a surprise, but he didn't tell us about the uphill and the the rolling, like the mud and the gravel. It was like little tiny pieces of gravel. So, but you can't complain because they'll just make it worse.
Something new this year that we saw, and hopefully we'll see it for the rest of the year. We have a new start line MC for Canada. His name is Jason Alexander. I thought he was very, very good pumping up racers. I know for many racers, especially in the open category, that start line speech and motivation and build up is really important. And I thought we were losing it a bit in the past few years. So, and especially if you go to like Tough Mudder or some races in the US where they have these long-standing MCs that they have like for such a long time that they almost build a relationship with the racers. So I think having that vibe at the start line was really good. So I was happy to see that energy. I know many people, so for those who were there in Blue Mountain, Jesse Bruce, who many people know was doing the start line speech for the open category, I believe, in Blue Mountain. Super pumped. Everybody loved it. So
Yeah,
we didn't get Jesse Bruce, but we got someone who had enough energy to spark or ignite like a flame into the racers.
I 100% agree with you on that. I thought the start line was amazing. Again, personally, I like the motivation and the pump up, but I don't like it going on and on and on and on with the same thing. And I think whatever was said was perfect. It was right to the point. But I also did love Jesse Bruce's speech too. And he did it for the age group as well, because he's just a spark plug of high intense energy, but not, to me, I like that. It was awesome, but this year was awesome too. I liked the start line. The consistency was great too, I think. So that was a good match. And we've got a new kind of start line entrance now too, and there is a name for it.
It's Armageddon.
Yeah. So you guys have been to the States, the US races that started there. Is that how that?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
it's for those who don't know, Armageddon is like it's kind of a barbed wire crawl, a bit different, not as like crazy, but with like haze, stack of haze, and like it looks like a Normandy, like a type of setting. It looks really cool. I have heard like many mixed feelings about it. Like it's nice, but the fact that it's before the start line is pretty useless, but it gets you into the spirit. So I think people, it's very mixed feelings for that Armageddon.
yeah, and if you go to other races, and not just Tough Mudder, but Tough Mudder does stuff like that. That's not totally unnormal. It's annoying to have to get muddy and go under barbed wire before you start your race, but it's part of it. It's great for open, I think. And the rest of us we can just suck it up. But yeah, even Tough Mudder has you sometimes jumping over some of the walls. I know there's a couple other Canadian races that are not quite functional anymore, but they used to have stuff like that too, to jump over stuff. So I think I'm good with it either way. It looks great in the start line too. When you approach that, it's almost like it's more for the vibe of the whole thing. It looks good for spectators as well. I did find the race really spectator friendly as well too this year. I don't know if you guys felt the same, but I found it really interesting. My daughter and she was there and she was hanging out. She enjoyed the festival part. So from a spectator's point of view, I think it was a very fun event for them as well too.
Yeah, 100%. My daughters were there too, and they were waiting for us at the finish line and encouraging us, like, because you go up the mountain, then you go back to the festival so they can see you, then you go up, they go back. So yeah, very spectator friendly. We've seen other venues where it's not so much. I can think of like New Jersey. We didn't do it this year, but New Jersey last year. I find the way the mountain set up not very spectator friendly. So director can really leverage like the base of the mountain to build the festival and obstacles around it. I think so far, since at least as far as I can recall, since Nick has become the race director, he's really leveraged that like horizontal part. Ottawa is one that is very, very horizontal at the base. So there's a lot of obstacles, like from the finish line to the start line in a horizontal way. And at least last year, he really leveraged like the full extent of the festival area, where people can see many obstacles.
Yeah, I find that great because that's the whole thing, you've got to come in and see like, wow, and maybe I'll try it next year and actually my daughter is going to be doing Tremblant, the 5K in Tremblant now. So yay, after watching me so many times. And she actually did it when she was little, when it was near where I live. I believe it was at Hardwood Hills, which is kind of Horseshoe Valley area in Ontario. That was the original Spartan in Ontario, I believe, or I think it was called Toronto, and they had them going under picnic tables at that point. So Spartan Kids has come a long way since then. She didn't like getting muddy back then, but she's okay now.
On that note, I just have a flashback, and it goes back to the podcast that you did with Amber and Nick, and I believe you asked him like the difference between before Spartan US took over and like the main changes, and Nick talked about the quality of the obstacles. I remember like the pre-Spartan US and now, and in Toronto 2019 2018, I forgot, but the obstacles were not like the ones that we have now. The quality was a bit not as like mainstream or as impressive as they are now. And I think the last obstacle, their second to last obstacle, was called Blackout. And it was right around, I remember exactly where it was. It was right around where the barbed wire crawl was this year. But it was basically just like a big tarp that you had to crawl under. And it was just mud. So you were really squeezed between like a black tarp. You couldn't see anything, hence the name Blackout. So anyways, you came out of there all black, all like muddy. And it was then with all muddy in Canada. That was a race, Toronto 2019. But it just shows that the obstacles have clearly evolved over time, because that was really just like a black tarp over mud, and definitely not the most like impressive obstacles. But yeah, Spartan has come a long way, I think, over time.
Yeah, and I think after coming out of the pandemic and seeing so many races disappear, not being backed by bigger corporations, like Spartan is a bigger entity itself, I think that has saved our Canadian races, because a lot of the companies that we had and some of the brands that we have are not doing well like they were before, and not producing the same race results. And so it's almost like, even if we get through the next few years, things are growing. And I felt at Brimacombe, I don't know if you guys felt the same way. It felt renewed, almost like there were so many new people there. And I think that's what the sport needs, is we need lots of new people to come and get involved and drink the Kool-Aid just like the rest of us.
Yeah, I feel like it's going more and more like, well, but the thing is, I can't really, I don't really have a good reference since I've started in 2021, but maybe since the pandemic, it seems like there's more and more people involved in the Spartan community.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and even seeing on the chats and things in the group community, kind of alive now as well, like people asking questions and, like asking other racers about things and asking for rides and stuff. So I kind of like that that's happening. I hope it continues. I hope we all get everyone to come out and just give it a try, or bring them as spectators, and, hope for the best. Hope we can get them to get on board there. I don't know if Amber, are you able to jump in here at all? If you are, awesome. If you can't, no worries.
Yeah, I'm here.
I'm
just kind of listening in. I didn't know what you guys had said already, but don't mind my voice. It's still gone from hosting the DECA event on the weekend. So I don't usually sound like this, but there was a lot of excitement going on, and this is where we're at. So
amazing. Yeah, Amber's just come off of a weekend. Amber's gym, Pure Impact Athletics, hosts DECA Strong this weekend. It was for 2 days. So Amber is just coming off of that. Sounds like it was an amazing weekend. I'm sad that I missed it, but at the Brimacombe weekend, you did basically everything, or your gym did everything. We're talking today about our experience with the start of the season, basically.
Mhm. Actually, I tuned in when you guys were talking about the barbed wire crawl, and it reminded me of Jacksonville. Like the Jacksonville barbed wire crawl this year was epic. And that was like, it felt so long and like similar in Brimacombe. So if anybody listening did the Jacksonville barbed wire crawl, it was very similar, except there was a lot more water in Brimacombe and it was so cold, but it was kind of a nice way to end the race. I kind of liked it. It was like your last like refresh before you got to jump over the fire.
Yeah, I didn't hate it either. It was different. I liked that part. I liked that people were complaining for some reason, because it's kind of funny. But
Yeah, it
I
is.
definitely had fun. I liked watching it as a spectator afterwards. That was awesome. And the pictures that
Yeah,
we
if you
got.
like stood at the top, like Jill and I stood there at the top watching a lot of like my team come through, and it was just like the
Just
people coming
laughing.
out, like it was just the funniest expression. Some of them were either loving their life or hating their life, and like there really wasn't an in between.
We should get a collection of pictures because there's some amazing pictures. I don't know if you guys saw your pictures, but the picture coming out from under the barbed wire crawl is fantastic. Julie,
That's
it looks like
something
you
that
did
is
not love yours.
that is something noteworthy. I think for this race, I saw many pictures, and they were amazing. The photographers did an amazing job this year. Oh, well, they usually do a nice job, but I think particularly in Brimacombe, the pictures were nice. So big props to Alexandre Barry and the team at Epic Action Imagery. Like it was amazing. Well done.
Oh yeah, I
Yeah.
love some of my pictures. I'm like, wow, that's me. Cool.
Yeah, I don't know. I think one of my favorite parts about the race in general, and again, I don't know if you guys have said this already, but I really feel like the race course layout really catered to every athlete. Like it started with a whole bunch of elevation, like you're up and down the hill twice. And then at the top, like then it was just like there was a few obstacles. It was like just a lot of like grip strength and carry. So it really carried to like if you're obstacle great that you could kind of make a move there. And then the last section was majority flat running. So like if you were great at hills, you kind of had your opportunity to, get ahead at the start. If you were great at obstacles, there was like a few sections where there was just like obstacle, and like maybe that was where you could make your move. And if you're just like a fast flat runner, like the whole last section was all flat. So like I love that every athlete had an opportunity in this race, like to make a move if they wanted to. Like it really catered to every athlete, I thought.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that one. And I personally felt like you kind of got like a little refreshing, okay, now I'm doing this, so it's not hard anymore. So now I'm climbing a hill, that's really hard. Okay, I'm not doing that. I'm doing grip stuff. Okay, that's hard. That's too hard. I want to do something else. Like it really lended itself to getting refreshed and like
That's why I think having Brimacombe as the opener is perfect because it's not like a trifecta weekend. The mountain is not too hard, so it just gets you into the groove. The weather is nice. I think Nick mentioned it in the podcast, but it used to be the Toronto race used to be like much later in the summer. So the fact that it's now like early May, I think it's perfect, and it paves the way for a harder one that is Tremblant in June. So
yeah, let's get into that real quick before we log off because I know the five of us could just talk all day, and that's why we're doing this podcast. So because we like to talk about Spartans, so we will definitely have lots of time to do that. But let's get into the next race, which is Mont Tremblant. That is your area, Julie and Alex. So what are you looking forward to? And give us some info or insight on that.
Well, for my part, so we're looking at a trifecta weekend. So a beast, a super, and a sprint. And there's also going to be for insiders only, but a black trifecta that will be hosted by Johnny. If ever you have questions, it's kind of like an endurance event, but you carry weight. You do the same the trifecta, but with weight on your back. And you don't have to do the obstacle with it, but you have to do burpees at every obstacle as well. So I'm just looking forward. It's a very nice course. I don't know if it's the exact location as last year, maybe Alex.
It's the same. Yeah, it's the same. It's in the Versant Nord, so really the same. So for those watching, and if you haven't done it last year, it's not where like the cute little festival, the village is. It's on the other side of the mountain, because I remember people from last year. I saw texts after the race like, "Hey Alex, I'm lost. I don't know where the race is," and they were like on the other side of the mountain. So really look at the address on the Spartan website. It's on a specific entrance from the mountain.
That was me actually too. And you did answer my text in one of the group chats. So
but also the ultra, Julie. So we know some people will do the ultra. Many DNFs last year because on the Saturday it was a crazy weather. You would expect like mid-June to be like super sunny, rainbows and butterflies, but no, it was like all hell broke loose with like crazy wind. It was hailing, it was raining, it was cold, snow, everything. So many people didn't finish the ultra. I think many people didn't finish the beast as well. I remember, and I think I will have it for the rest of my life, the vertical cargo was at the very top of the mountain. So when you were at the transition at the vertical cargo, it was shaking, it was windy, it was oh my god, it was so bad. So I'm hoping for better weather, at least for the beast, especially since we had, Julie and I, not so good weather in Montana and in Big Bear. We didn't mention it, but we had our super and sprint canceled. We were almost done our super and we were pulled off the mountain because there was lightning strikes close to the mountain. So we got a DNF and the sprint never happened. So anyways, I'm hoping for better weather in Tremblant. It's such a nice venue and such a nice place. So definitely looking forward to it.
But completely different from Brimacombe, which is what's great about Spartan too, because we had our nice, lovely, happy Brimacombe weekend, and we'll have a great Tremblant weekend as well, but it's completely different training. I hope everyone is doing weighted lunges every day from now until then. Do your deca lunges with your RAM. But yeah, that's going to be crazy. I personally am doing the ultra, which I was slightly inspired to do after hanging out with Amber all weekend, and Zach, her husband, is doing the ultra. So I was like, Zach's doing it, I should probably do it too.
I'm having big time FOMO, to be completely honest. I'm doing the trifecta weekend and I'm registered to do it with a friend, the Beast, and I'm just like, I just can't leave him on his own, but don't count me out yet.
Maybe he'll want to do the ultra as well too.
If he's listening, come on, let's go.
We can all do it together and suffer together. It'll be great. I am banking on the good weather too. I'm going to assume that it's going to be great because Alex and Julie have had a few bad races. It's time for a good one. So I'm just going to bank on that. And I actually personally prefer the cold weather. Not to get upset anyone, but over the 30 degrees. If it's -30, I personally do better over +30, but we won't go there. I don't think
I'm a fair weather racer.
Yeah, there you go.
Fair weather.
Well, it's in June, so and middle of June, we should be good. Let's just bank on, we're all just going to count on good weather. It's going to be great, perfect, awesome. We'll leave it at that. Amazing. Well, this was fantastic. Does anybody have anything they would like to wrap up on? This has been great.
Thanks, Jill, for hosting. Always a pleasure.
No problem. What races is everybody doing real quick for Tremblant? Really quickly.
Trifecta.
Trifecta. And are you doing the black trifecta, Julie?
No.
Okay, so if anybody wants to do the black trifecta, they can reach out to Julie, and it's a bit of a secretive kind of thing. Actually, Amber, maybe you should do that and tell us how it goes.
I'm gonna reach out to you, Julie, because if I'm gonna settle and not do the ultra, I feel like the black trifecta is exactly what I should be doing. So,
I agree with this.
You know? I'll reach out to you, Julie.
Awesome. All right, you guys. Well, I'm looking forward to our next event and our next podcast. But until then, keep doing those darn lunges, weighted step ups, anything to kill those legs before we get to Tremblant.
We'll see you guys soon.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Guys, have fun in Tremblant.